Hello, welcome to Tea with Mali. We are here with Carl Brown today, and Carl is an expert in helping entrepreneurs, small, growing, diverse businesses really hit all of their goals. And I'm delighted to know him. He has been around this arena, small business development, minority business ownership, for so many years, and I'd really love to share your insights with our audience.
Well, thank you, Molly. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I would love to educate your audience on small business and minority business issues.
So I want to start off, though, by going back to your corporate days, because I think there's two different mindsets. And there are some similarities, but there are definitely differentiators between being inside a corporation and being entrepreneur, which you really were, because you were really, truly leading inside these corporate entities that you worked for. But then now you have kind of stepped out on your own and you have your own consultancy business. I really want to talk about what it took for you to either take some of those lessons that you've learned or shift your mindset. How different or how similar are they?
You know, it wasn't much of a shift because, like you pointed out, I was an entrepreneur. And so I always felt that I was running my own corporation within the corporation. And doing that, so when the transition came, it was really easy for me because I was so used to doing it, making my own decisions, making decisions for others as well to run and manage the business. So it was an easy transition for me.
When you were inside corporations, and you worked for a lot of them, large ones, I don't know if you want to mention some of them or not, but you were definitely in charge of managing many people and large projects. So you weren't just there doing the work. You were truly a visionary inside. When you were leading inside an organization, what did you have to do to get people to actually pay attention, to listen, to execute your vision?
Good question. Share your vision and understand your role and responsibility within the company. And then be able to go back to your team and articulate that to them. And to say that the company is dependent upon us to make a certain revenue target. And for us to do that, we all have to be on the same page of music. And so you spend a lot of time communicating with your team and coaching them. And the good thing about it is most of the teams that I was on, everyone was really on board. Or if they weren't, they eventually left the business. Which doesn't make them a bad person or anything like that. But if that's not your vision, if that's not where you want to be, you got to go out and find yourself. I found myself within these companies, and I wanted to be a good employee, and not just a good employee, I wanted to be a great employee, and I wanted to be a leader. And so I took advantage of every opportunity that I was given. And I also coached my staff to say, hey, you too can take advantage of these opportunities. Just do what I say, follow the lead, perform, do your work, execute, and network, because that's one of the things that you have to do as well. You have to network, let people know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
In your earlier years, when you were a youth, who was a good example of leadership for you? Because leadership is definitely in your blood. That's what you've always strived for. So I guess my question is, was there a mentor? Was there someone that you saw as a true leader that you modeled after?
There were many. I was fortunate. My dad was my number one mentor, leader, father. He was everything to me. My uncles, they were leaders. They always spent time with me talking about how to go to the next level, how to be all that you can be. Godfathers, I had, several godfathers, and they all talked about being positive, the power of positive thinking, being positive in your life, looking for the best, striving academically, So I had a lot of folks around me. So, the saying, it takes a village. Well, I definitely had a village around me. And to honor them, I try to do my best every day to honor their memories, because most of them are gone now. So, and then outside of my family and friends, I would say that Martin Luther King, absolutely, Mahatma Gandhi had an impact on me. Robert and John F. Kennedy as well. I'd always wanted to be like those gentlemen, honorable and that move this nation forward. So I look at what I do as a service. When I work with small businesses, I look at it as a service. I have a certain level of education. I'm imparting that to them to help them grow and develop, and so that they can do the same to other people behind them.
Is there a separation between personal values and professional values?
Not at all. You have to have values in the beginning. You have to have ethics. I mean, if we hear about the Bernie Madoffs and these other folks who steal a lot of money. You don't get away. You may think you're going to get away, but you don't get away, because that will hurt your conscience. I always feel better when I'm helping people. Right. That's that. I get up every morning looking to see how I can impact those around me, whether it's my family, my coworkers, or the businesses that I work with, or whoever. I try to make a positive impact. So, and that's how I live. So I'm blessed, and I try to bless other people as I move along every day.
You've had a lot of successes, both in corporate, and then also I want to ask you, what led you to taking on the role of executive director for the Center of Minority Development Businesses? What led you into caring about minority business development, and how did that change your perception of what's really truly happening in our economic system around small business ownership?
Well, what led me to that was I thought it was a calling. And when I saw the job description, I said, wow, that is my job. To find out later on that 98 people applied for the same position and I got it was an affirmation that it was a calling. Now, when I went in for the interview, I had already written the plan of action, if you will, what I was going to do over the next 5 years, how to engage these businesses. And that was based on my corporate experience, how the businesses would engage me as a contractor. I was a contract officer for several businesses. And, these businesses would come to see me about opportunities. And a lot of them weren't capable of doing what we needed to get done. Now, there were some that were very capable, and they got a lot of work from me. So, they benefited, but they were already prepared. The majority of them coming to me were not prepared. And that's how I came up with the, cost accounting module that we were looking at, estimating how to respond to a proposal or IFB, which is information for bid. I mean, a lot of business owners are good at their trade or their craft, but they don't understand the back office. And that's the whole banking, finance, proposal writing, all of that plays a part in you being a successful business. Marketing, networking. I can't emphasize networking enough. If you're in the business and doing the work and you're not out there networking to get your next opportunity, when this one is over, what you gonna do? You might have a 3, 4, 5 month, layoff in between. What happens to your employees when you're not bringing any bacon into the house?
And that's a good point. What's the unique differentiator between a small business owner that's prepared when there's an opportunity, that basically your door's open and says, hey, we want you, here's what you need to do, and they're either prepared or they're not? What makes someone prepared? Is it a mindset, or is it really about getting the training and skill sets? Maybe
it's a combination. It really is a combination. If you don't have that training, then you don't know. And when you don't know and you don't seek additional assistance, then you're going to hurt yourself and probably wind up going out of business. And there are too many small businesses going out of business right now. When the president and the Congress talk about small businesses, the engine of America's economy, but then they don't put any money in developing small businesses, then it's just a slogan in my estimation. I think the more prepared small businesses or business owners are, the better off their opportunities will be. Some people happen to luck up in getting opportunities and making good money, and then they hire the folks to help them round out their business. So they were lucky in that sense that they got the opportunities, they made the money, there's some cash flow. They hired some folks because they were smart enough to say, hey, I don't know everything, and I need people to come in and help me run and manage this business. You know, some of the smartest people are the ones who turn over their company to someone else to run it. Right. And an example of that is headphone manufacturer Skull Candy. Okay. You know, the guy said, hey, I took the business to this level. I need someone to come in and take it to the next level. He was smart enough to say, I don't have to be in charge of everything. And that's what a lot of small businesses, that's the fault line that I see. They want to be in charge of everything. But if you don't have the expertise in those areas, then, you know, you have to go out there and get it. So if there's an underlying message that I want to bring out is seek assistance and help in those areas that you're not good in.
Were there any surprises when you moved out of corporate and into the role of executive director, now supporting small businesses who were trying to win these opportunities, the opportunities that you were managing at one point on the other side? What were some of the awakenings you had when you came to support the small businesses? Were there any, like, you scratched your head and said, how could they not see this? Or
yes.
Okay. So can you give us some examples?
When I would recruit businesses to come into the program, they would tell me that, you know, like one said, I don't have time for you to teach me how to make more money. Another is that they just didn't see any value in training because they already knew everything. So when you know everything, you don't need assistance, you don't need help. In which that's unfortunate because I'll tell you, I still take training. I still go to workshops and I just got a certification in contract compliance. So I see value in furthering my education. And I instill that in my kids and into all the small businesses that work with me. I tell them all the time, go and continue to get your education, continue to improve yourself. I'm going to start working on my green belt. And I'm going after a black belt. After I do that, I'm going to get a certificate in project management. So, you know, and I already have 2 master's degrees. So, you know, people say, well, why are you so, motivated to do all of this? Because I want to learn. I want to know more. I want to be the best that I can be. You're
definitely constantly curious, which is critical, I think, for innovation and leadership, right? I think the visionaries are the ones who, some people say they're so creative, they never stay focused. But when they do take on the skill sets and get the training and support they need to stay focused, they are unbelievably unstoppable, right? Because I have friends who run their own businesses and you think, how are they doing all of this? They're a PhD in this, they're a doctor in that, and then they have a family. But it's because there's, what you talked about earlier, which I want to come back to, is they have a deeper mission. They're going after life because they know that they have a legacy that they have to live now. And when you went back earlier and you said something about calling, how do you know this is your calling? What tells you when something is a calling?
It was easy for me when I looked at the job description, and I got several phone calls from people who know me to say, Carl, I saw this job, and because I didn't see it initially. It was brought to my attention, and they said, this is you. So with that external focus and folks looking out for me to say, this is something you might want to consider, and then my internal, looking at it, evaluating it, and saying, this is something that I can do. It became me, basically, It took on a life of its own. I mean, it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. there wasn't a minute that I didn't think about what I was doing. So I would say that's not a job, that's a calling.
Absolutely.
You know.
What did you love about it? I know that in every job, in every role, especially in the leadership role that you played there, there are always going to be challenges and many surprises along the way. But when you look back at your experience there, and also all of your years of experience, but in particular, we're talking about the small and growing businesses, your role was to lead them, guide them, teach them, give them direction. And those, you can't convince somebody who doesn't want it, but those
Right.
that were really wanting it and hungry for
Committed.
it, committed to it. What did you love most about your experience there?
I had one guy who was going through the program, and we had worked with him to redo all of his marketing collateral. And he said that the new marketing collateral with the new logo that we helped him design gave him the confidence to go after larger business. And when I talked to him, I saw him at an event at a business mixer. And when I asked him how things were going, he was talking in tongue. He couldn't get it out. He was so excited about what we had done for him that, you know, he just was, it was like he was talking 3-4 words at a time. And he showed me, he had his marketing collateral on him. And he pulled it out of his tuxedo and showed it to me, and he said, "Mr. Brown, I'm getting more work. I just won a $7 million contract."
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
when you help people to go to that level, and they tell you directly, this gave me the confidence to go after larger opportunities.
You know, it's interesting because the work that I do also talks about professional versus personal development, right? So much of the things that we think are going to motivate us, you know, believe in yourself and follow your own intuition, all of that is valid. Mm-hmm. But there's also something very powerful about external, about feeling important and special and valued and having other people, you know, tell you that you're worthy. Mm-hmm. So when that happens to someone and they have that validation, it gives you this belief system that, okay, I believe in myself, but now the world believes in me too. And all of a sudden your shoulders get lifted and that. Where do you start when you're coaching people and consulting with them? Do you start with them really looking deeper and going deeper to what they want out of life? Or do you really look at the outside first and have them reach out to people to fill them up?
I always start with the person inside, because if the person inside is not right, that's never going to come out. So I don't care how much we try to help you and train you. You have to, I always say, I look in the mirror. If there's anything that I do and and it was done wrong, I always look at how I can improve myself. And when I'm working with someone, I try to help them understand that, making a mistake is okay. Failure is okay. It's how you react. Everything. We're not going to get up there and hit a home run every time we come up at bat. We may strike out. We may get on first base. We may get a home run. But it's how you react is how you're going to, make it in this world. And, if you lose, if you fail, and you go and you sit in the dark and you feel sorry for yourself, that's not a good thing. But if you say, hey, what could I have done to do better? What are the things that I'm missing? And then go out there and get it. Or, you have your coach help you assess and you're true. One thing I always say to folks is, you can lie to your doctor all you want. But if he's telling you how to stay alive and you don't follow what he says or she says, then chances are you're not going to make it. And it's the same thing. You have to be honest with yourself. What is it that you really want to do? And, and then people tell you. I had one guy tell me, he said, well, I don't want to grow my company no larger than what it already is, because I feel comfortable managing 8 people. I had 20 people at one point. I only want 8 to 10, period. I'm done. That was his comfort level. That's all he can handle, and I understood that. Helping him get to that stage and building some more confidence around his delivery, some of his holes were billing his clients. I mean,
you know, a lot of people's holes. Yeah, a lot
like,
of
how
small
can
business
you,
ownership. Yeah, we say,
Yeah.
I don't like invoicing. I don't like invoicing. But that's how we survive.
that's the
how we get
lifeblood of
paid.
your business.
That's right.
So you can't be shy. You did the work, you know, now bill them, you know, be confident about
It
it.
truly is. It comes down to our value system, our own value system, what we believe to be our value in the work that we do, that we believe in it ourselves, you know. Sometimes we have to go out there when we start and try things out, and maybe the confidence isn't there, but people know that too. They feel it when you're not confident.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So you
Yeah.
decided to step out into your own thing, your own business. What inspired that? Had it been something that you had planned all along?
No, it was, it just happened.
It just happened.
It just happened.
Another thing, the calling.
You know, exactly, you know, so I was sitting at home and got a call, and, you know, I was asked, can I come up there, you know, come and help this business? They had a big hole. They had hired some folks that weren't capable of taking them to the next level. And was I available? I said, yeah. Did I want a challenge? Yeah. So I took a look, had to go out of town, and, you know, I looked at everything, and we talked about what my role and responsibility would be. And I was very comfortable with delivering for them. And once we delivered, you know, we had to have everything. And the good thing is, it wasn't just a validation by me or the person I work for, but our program had to be validated by an outside entity who was funding this company. So they saw the plan that I wrote up, and they were like, oh, how did y'all come up with this? And they said, internally, they say, Carl Brown's our secret weapon.
That's good.
So
Good to
that's
be
a
in that
great
position.
thing, exactly. So we came up with a great plan, and you know, just things that I've done for many years. So it's like, okay, you know, just put it on paper. So then they sent back a bunch of questions on, you know, how are you going to implement this? How are you going to do this? And then I spent a couple of days working with them to answer all the questions. Then when we sent that back, they were like, wow, check, done, accepted, implement. And that's what we're doing now.
Wow. It was the beginning.
The beginning.
Yeah.
And so you have, you know, repetitive work coming out of it because the work is good, you know. And then other clients are like that as well. They're like,
Well, we talked about this pre-show. You know, you launch a business, and if you're not a strong networker, or if you haven't been around a long time, it's so important that you have relationships, correct? Because
Yes.
being able to have your pipeline and your funnel filled because of all the people, all the years of relationships that you build. Now they're just saying, wow, he's doing his own thing. He's an amazing man. Check him out. How critical is it to always keep that forefront of your mind, not only in business ownership, of course, but especially when you're launching a new business, the critical piece of relationship and networking correctly, which I want you to talk about.
Yeah. It's very important, but I don't want people to think that I started networking like, you know, in March, April.
Right.
Networking is something that I've been doing since I've been a kid, basically.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you have friends of friends, people know you. But networking is critical when you are trying to advance in your career or advance your business. You can't start networking, you can start at any time, but you have had to have started years ago. There's a difference between people who don't network and people who do network. And we always see them. The ones that are out here networking and exchanging business cards and ideas and working with other folks, they're moving ahead in life, you know. And those, I'm not saying that people that don't network don't get ahead. Maybe some do, but I really don't see it. I see the ones that are out here networking. And when I say get ahead in life, it doesn't always have to translate into millions of dollars. Everyone's not going to be a millionaire. But it's, what's your impact on your community? Whether that's your community where you live or your community where you work. Because in my area, when I was doing, procurement, people knew me around the country as a guy that understands and knows procurement. When I was doing certification, the same thing. People say, oh man, if you need some advice, call, or contract compliance. And I wrote, papers on this and had it published in newspapers and magazines and stuff. So you become an industry expert, and that's another way to network because you can always point to your work. Well, hey, and present it, and then people want to know you and get to know you. So that's a way to network. And then you become what is called a subject matter expert.
Right.
And people hire you based on that.
And you made a great point because we talk and we hear a lot about networking. We have definitions of network, and now you have social networking and being able to connect with people on a social level, not just one-on-one. But it's also extremely important to keep your one-on-one relationships because when you said networking, you said exchange business cards, but you also said exchange ideas and collaborate.
Right.
Which are so critical to the whole formula of networking. It's not just going to an event, because I had to learn this lesson too. When I first came out, I was so green in sales and business development, and my first job out of college, that was many years ago, but it was always this networking meant I had to go to as many places as possible to meet as many people as possible, and then I'd come back and compare how many cards I collected to my other business developers on my team. And that was so not the purpose. I didn't know better.
Right.
And a lot of business owners who have not been trained over the years or through experience, and they're just launching a business, they just don't know what they don't know. Networking is not just about the quantity of business cards. It's about the number of coffees you've had, the breaking bread, the how long, do you know this person and their core values in life? Do you find, especially when you were, and now too, when you're coaching, how many people have a misconception of networking, or has that changed now?
No, it's very much a misconception. They believe just getting a business card is networking. That's not networking. Now you have my business card. Are you going to follow up? And I'm going to tell you, the chief procurement officer for one of the major computer companies said to me, well, I was in the audience, and he said it to everyone there. He said, you see this, my business card? I got a stack of them. I'm going to hand them out, but less than 10% of you will ever contact me. Oh. Yes. And I find that to be the same thing with me. I give out 100, and I may get, 5, 6, 7 phone calls or people following up. So people collect business cards for whatever reason, I don't know. And then other people actually engage you, whether it's with a simple email, hey, how you doing, was thinking about you, or remember when we were at such and such event, that was pretty funny what the guy said, something simple like that, but you keep the door open, feel free to invite folks to different things that you're doing. When I'm doing a presentation, I invite them. They can come or they can choose not to. But I'm extending my hand to them to say, I still want you in my circle. And my circle is pretty big.
Well, what do you do now? You are out here helping businesses. What problems do you solve as their consultant, as their coach?
Oh, all kinds of problems. It goes from financial problems, organizational problems. It could be problems with certification, understanding how to even evaluate whether or not they're going to go after an opportunity. There's so many ways that I help them. I really want to call myself a problem solver, and not just someone that's a coach or a counselor, but a real problem solver.
what lights you up? Like what would be the ideal phone call for you, or the ideal meeting? What is your client saying to you that is just going to completely make your day?
That we won. We won. That project we worked on, we won. Like, my client got the authorization to move forward with their program. That was a big win, And then there's some other things that we have worked on that, we're seeing come to fruition. So, when you win, when you execute, those are the things that get me going. But success, everyday success gets me going as well.
You mentioned you have a coach. And I like talking about this because whether you're a coach, a consultant, run your own business, have a team, I think it's critical that we all have a coach, all have other people that are looking from outside but intimately know our vision, what we want, to guide us along, because we can too be blindsided. We're in the game, we're running our business. How important is that? Because I think that a lot of business owners, at least some of the ones that I work with, they're like, I can't afford one, money's tight, or, I really don't need it. I really don't need a coach. What's a coach anyway? A cheerleader? I think a coach is much more than that.
Much more than that. But I have two things. One is a coach, but then I have an advisory board, group of advisors. And I was also looking for a mentor. And people say, oh, you're looking for a mentor? Absolutely. I'm looking for someone who's 10 times as successful as I am to help me understand how they got to where they are. And I asked this guy one time, and he said, Carl, I know you from afar. You'll be great. You'll be okay. I don't have the time to be your mentor. Because he asked me, because I kept asking him and meeting him at different places that I knew he would be at. Like I was stalking this guy. And because he's so successful, but he's so laid back and he's such a gentleman that I said, this is the kind of person I want to have impact my life. And, I just need to hear, how he goes about getting his business and how does he do the things that he does? How does he execute and watch his mannerisms and everything? Because all of that plays a part in how successful he is. And so I try to emulate him, and I told him, because he asked me, one day we were walking, I caught up with him, and he turned around and said, so what is it that you want? And I said, I want you to be my mentor. And when I told a lot of people that, they were like, what? You're too old for a mentor. We're never too old. Especially when we're trying to go to the next level. So, I have that need still. But I look at like my former boss, Earl Graves, and how he managed and ran his businesses. A man of class, character, always appropriate, never inappropriate, even when we're sitting around a table one-on-one or whatever. Never made any offhand comments, anything crazy. Always a gentleman. And that's the way I want to be known and looked upon as. So I had that, but it's my advisory board, and people ask me, well, what were you thinking when you did this? And again, you have to be honest, because it's like going to the doctor, and the doctor says, have you been eating right? And you're sitting there lying saying, oh yeah, I was eating right. And you know good and well that you weren't, So you have to be honest. I had a nutritionist, and that's how I lost some weight, which I gained back, but I need to get back on track. But it was like we would sit there, and I had to write in this book everything that I ate, And I wrote in, I had 2 Snicker bars, and I drank a 20-ounce Pepsi or Coke or whatever it was. I wrote it down because why would I spend the money and time with you lying to you and you're saying, well, if you're eating salad, why are you gaining weight? So it didn't make sense. And so when you're running and managing your business, you have to be honest with your advisors and your mentor and your coach and these people who are there for you. If I had a coach that was a yes person or a cheerleader, then I know that that's not the person for me. I need someone that's going to be hard on me. You know, you said you were going to do this by this date. What happened? And then I have to evaluate the man in the mirror, what I did and what I didn't do, and why I'm off track. Because when you're trying to be successful and you're trying to make other people successful, you have to stay on track. You have to stay focused. And I'm not saying you can't have fun, but there's times for fun and there's time for focus. And you got to understand that. I've gone on business trips with people and where they would, drink the night before and then you go to make a presentation. Really? Oh, not me. I'm going to study my material the night before. And so when I get in that room and I'm doing that presentation, I'm going to knock it out the park. And I'm going to make you want to be on my team or hire me or do what you're going to say, there's value in this guy. I need him on my team. I want him now. I got to have this guy. I'm not bringing dead energy into the room, And I'll tell you a quick story about energy and how you have an impact on people and you don't even know it. What I call the it factor. This guy was a senior vice president of a company, and he was good at what he did, but he had no it factor. And he always sought this it factor. I mean, that was his life. His goal in life was to become the man, And, we respected him for the position and everything that he had. And so one day I'm sitting we were in the workshop, and he came into the workshop, and he entered, and he was hoping to get this wow factor. And we turned around and turned back and focused on the presentation. I know that hurt him because he was looking for that, to walk in the room. Now, not to be egotistical, but last night I went to my kids' PTA meeting, and I walk in the room and people, we were late because I was late getting there, work related. And when I walked in the room, people noticed all, right away. Oh, hey, Carl, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine, and I'm talking to folks. And, and the president of PTA says, hello, good evening. She didn't know me. And, she was like, can you tone it down a little bit? So, there's that difference between having charisma and wanting it, and when you have it, you have to share it. You have to use it to the advantage of everyone. And going back to my whole thing about service, in the calling, is that I feel better when I'm serving others than when something good is happening to me.
The idea of advisory board is really cool, but so few business owners and businesses have them.
I know.
So what is it that keeps people from asking? And that's first question. And second question, how do you go about asking to build your advisory board?
What stops them from asking for help? Ego. I know everything. I know this. How do you go about getting help? Being honest. Asking folks that, my thing is, I have an attorney, an accountant, HR person, branding person. I got a collection of folks. And, I asked them if we can meet, and I pay for a little dinner, and we have informal discussions about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how they see me doing it. Because when you're in the blender, you don't see the outside. You're in the eye of the hurricane. And I asked them, so do I look professional? Because, it's okay, you got a suit on and a tie. Whatever. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. But is my delivery good? Do I seem confident enough? Am I a subject matter expert? Would you hire me to help you? Those are the questions. And again, it's the evaluation of the man in the mirror. You know, am I doing all that I can to be all that I want to be? You know, and, you know, did I read enough today? You know, you always want to feed the monster, you know. Am I reading enough? Am I on top of my game? Do I understand what's going on? You got to know current events. If you're in business, you got to know legislation. A lot of people say, well, why do I need to know legislation now I'm in business? Because they could be legislating you out of business. You know, tanning parlors. I mean, I'm not one that own one or anything, but they were going after tanning parlors a little while ago. Gun owners, you know, you sell guns, you know, they're going after you all the time. So if that's your industry, you got to know what's facing your industry. Even something as simple as a bottle tax on Pepsi and Coke and all those, when I was at Pepsi-Cola, that impacted our business because, you know, people would say, well, I'm not going to pay 5 cents for a bottle, you know. So how would that tax have impacted the business and the bottom line? So you got to know legislation. You got to know legislators. Because if you want legislation passed that would benefit your business, guess what? You can't write a bill and the governor sign it. You have to go through the legislators. So you got to be able to go to them and say, hey, here's a good piece of legislation. Here's why it's a good piece of legislation. They adopt it, present it, and then it goes through that whole process.
In your professional opinion, where do you think the area of most development and support is needed for small and growing businesses, the owners themselves, the visionaries themselves?
The financial part. You get 10 small business owners in the room right now, and I guarantee that 8 out of 10 will say finance is a critical area for them. Money is always going to be the critical area. Whether it's money that they're putting in their pockets or money to run the business, money is always going to be a critical area. So understanding money, how to manage your money, how to make your money work for you. A lot of people say, well, I've been banking with X bank for 10 years and I can't get a loan. And like one guy said to me, well, I run $200,000 through the bank every month. Well, and then when I talked to a banker and said that, he said that's why he has no relationship, because he runs the money through the bank. There's no 250 is 50 that I'm investing or putting in a CD or a bond or whatever. That relationship doesn't exist. But even if I was running that kind of money through my bank account, I would want to know who my banker is. And so one of the biggest hurdles is that these folks, a lot of small business owners, don't understand, don't know who their bank is or their banker. Never make an appointment. Now, I have a little measly small account, and I know the branch manager. When I walk in there, I know all the tellers. I pretty much know them by name unless they're new, and the people that handle the loans. So you have to take an effort on your part to meet the people who impact your life. So if you're a business owner and you say, hey, I might need a line of credit, make an appointment, sit down and talk to your banker and find out, what is it that I need or you need from me to open up a line of credit? And they're going to tell you, because guess what? That's a revenue tool for them. So to get you a line of credit benefits them, because then they lent out more money. When they lend out more money, you're paying interest on the money, so the bank makes a profit. So those are the things that people really need to focus on, is the financial end of it. That's one of the biggest holes. Next one is marketing, how to market that business, understanding who your customer is, branding your business, having a logo. Folks don't do any of that. They just, think that, okay, I'm going to go in and talk to GSA and try and sell them on this. They got 10,000 people knocking on the door. Why you?
And how important is it for businesses that are recently launching or have launched but kind of plateauing and not really seeing growth to have a relationship with organizations like the SBA, or in your case, the Minority Development Centers, all these centers that are there for you. How come so many businesses don't use that to their advantage? What's holding these back? Is it still ego, or is it they're afraid it's going to cost something?
A combination, ego, cost. There's no cost in any of this. The number one thing is they don't know. So what you don't know can hurt you. Where you have an opportunity to go in and talk to a business counselor at a SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center, or SCORE, which is, I don't remember the whole acronym, but it's Retired Executives. And they're there to help you grow and manage your business in a way that you're not capable of doing.
And they're so phenomenal too. With SCORE, you can have all kinds of templates that are already done for you, and especially if you're coming in for the first time, launching your first business, and you're completely green. A lot of this stuff is available for free. It's downloadable. All you have to do is fill in the blanks and then tweak it to make sure that it matches you. But for a starting company, building a foundation, it's incredible what's out there that is free.
I'm glad you said starting and building the foundation, because 99% of them don't have a business plan. So how do you know where you're going? What is your vision? Have you put it on paper? And see, a lot of people have good vision, and they're capable of doing what they're going to do, whatever the craft is, or whatever the professional service is, or even selling products. Whether it's consumer products or other products for a specific industry, they're good at that. They understand that. But it's the whole, how do I convince my customer to come here as opposed to next door where my competitor is, And again, it's, looking at yourself, how you position in your business. Are you doing the right things?
Working with companies or entrepreneurs who want to run more like a physical shop or retail versus professional services. What are the differences that they have to, what are the considerations that are different they have to consider?
Oh, inventory. You want to tie up all of your money in inventory? So say you want to open up a Dollar General or a dollar store. That's a lot of inventory that you're buying, even if it's for less than $1. Okay, there's a lot of stuff. So you got to fill those shelves, and then you got to do inventory control. So what happens if you buy a lot, and they sell things in a lot, which is a couple of cases or whatever. You buy this, Brillo pad in a lot, and you have, that lot happens to have 24 cases or 24 boxes, right? So you do the math, you multiply it, so you're taking up a lot of space, and no one's buying it. What do you do then? Well, you're the dollar store. Do you make it 50 cents? Where do you put it? Do you position it differently in the store? Do you put it by the front door? Do you put, where do you put it? And the aisle, could be in the front, could be in the back, These are things you got to take into consideration to move your product, Sometimes you have to go back to the person you bought it from, and say, look, I can't move this thing. Can I get a credit on this, get something else? And then, you have to understand your customers. You have to look at your inventory. What's moving out the door? What's flying off the shelves as opposed to what's moving slowly? And do I need to move this slow moving stuff somewhere else that is in the front so when you walk in, you see it? Or, do I need to get rid of it? So that's one of the things. But, in the retail space, what does your bathroom look like? Oh, yeah, you think, one of the things, and I heard this guy, recently I read an article in the paper about a restaurant, and the guy says, I clean my restroom 3 times a day. Because that's a selling point to his customers, that the restrooms are clean, then the restaurant must be clean. So I'm going to spend my money. I feel comfortable going there. Because you know as well as I do, you go to a place and the restroom is not good, likelihood of you, okay, right? So that plus, is there clutter in the store? You know, how does it look? How does the inventory on the shelves look? Has it been there for a long time? Is it turning yellow or whatever? You know, these are the things, and as a consumer, you make your choices based on appearances and how it looks. So.
Right. And then the consultancy part, professional services, a lot of the services that professional companies offer are still conceptual in someone's mind. The solutions and problems you're solving is still something that's not tangible and physically not being bought.
Right.
So there's this whole set of challenges there to make sure you have a strong brand, to make sure you have testimonials and you have your past performances available, right? So that's a whole set of challenges to convince someone, a client to be,
right.
A potential to become a client, because it is a concept still. There's nothing proven yet except for past performances and other people and word of mouth, which we talked about. You know, the kind of relationships that help you sell professional services.
Right.
It's different from a product or a retail chain.
Absolutely, you know, because as a consumer, you just run in and buy what you want and leave. But as a consumer of professional services, you know, you have to be sold on that. And like you said, you have to come across as being a subject matter expert and confident, and I have to then be confident in your ability to help me solve my problem. And sometimes, you know, it's based on, you know, whether or not they get a warm and fuzzy. If they like the presentation, sometimes they might like the presentation, but they don't like you. So they look for the person that could bring what they want as a total package.
You do bring up a great point. The warm and fuzzy, which is professional, we don't talk very much about, but the warm and fuzzy is the ultimate reason why someone chooses you.
Absolutely.
It's the emotion. It's like, I like that person. I think he's a man of integrity, or there's something about her. She's just so full of light or energy.
Right.
The type of woo-woo talk that we don't say out loud, but it's happening inside of us all the time.
That's right.
You know, so it's okay every once in a while to, you know, actually voice what you're feeling inside. From a consumer standpoint as well, that's why things like Yelp and, you know, all these reviews, like Google Plus reviews and things like that, they're critical now. Social media is really calling for entities and organizations to speak more authentically.
Oh, absolutely.
They demand it.
And I, you know, even today, I went into a carry-out and I used the card, and my card sends me an email of the receipt. And on the receipt, it says, how was your experience? They want to know right there. They do a little survey. And so I hit the smiley face, and they said, was the environment, you know, the expense, that, you know, it's like 7 different things. Takes you about 2 minutes. And I know that the small business that is connected to that wants to improve or continue, you know, continuous improvement. So I always answer the questions. This is what I like, blah, blah, blah. You know, and so they take that feedback and they evaluate it, and then they make that customer experience that much better the next time. So feedback is important, whether it's negative or positive. Feedback is important. Be honest. You know, I've had an experience with a company, it wasn't good, and I was really displeased at what happened. So I wrote the president, got a phone call 2 days later, and they said, because of your experience, and we validated it, and I sent them the invoices and my payment slips to show that this transaction really happened. And they said, because of your feedback and the validation that you had a less than stellar performance on the part of our employees, you know, they said, well, first off, we're sending them through training because they need to know how to use the products that they're selling. They didn't know that. And that we're going to refund you your money. Wow, that made my consumer experience go up. You know, I'm going to still be hesitant using them in the future, but at least I know that they addressed my problem.
Right. They went from a 0 star to at least a 2 or 3 star because of their reaction, which you know gives the opportunity for organizations to remedy an experience that they're just sometimes not aware of. Sometimes it is frontline and inexperience and all that. So as a consumer, it's kind of that, yeah, I'm really not liking this experience, but if you don't voice it, you also are kind of perpetuating another consumer having a bad experience.
Right, and that's what I saw. when I went on their website, I saw where they had a lot of complaints in various areas of customer service. And so that's what, solidified my reaction to go ahead and send this letter in. And I wanted to see who was going to respond. And they did, inappropriately. So even with your small business, you want feedback, but you also want to empower your employees. If you're in that retail environment or even in professional services, you want to empower your employees to make decisions that are good when it can affect how your customer service is going to be. You want them to, if someone came into my retail shop and said, hey, I bought this and it's broke, and, we look at it, don't blame them for breaking it. Just take the merchandise back and, give them their money back. Because they're going to stay a customer if you do that.
Right. You make such great points around customer service and the experience that you have being a professional services, being able to continue getting people to come back and get referrals. So in any event, we're coming to a close of the show, and we'd love for people to be able to find you, learn more about you, hire you, whatever it takes to get their business up and going to the place to make sure that they meet their goals. So how can people find you, Carl?
I'm on
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
You're on
I'm
LinkedIn.
on
That's
LinkedIn.
the best way to find you?
Best
Okay.
way, and my email is Carl E. Brown Jr. at Verizon.net.
Okay, Junior as JR?
JR.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you very much for being on the show
Thank
today,
you.
sharing your insights, and lots of small and growing businesses out there. You know who to call if you have any questions and want some development. Thank you again for watching Tea with Molly, and we will see you next time.